It is the duty of the free man to resist tyranny at every turn. Every man will either watch his freedom stripped away or take action to protect what he loves. Introducing the A3, the newest revolutionary body armor from Armored Republic. The A3 is the new standard for lightweight multi-hit body armor. A3 plates are incredibly light at 4.6 pounds. The patented design captures fragmentation while remaining multi-hit capable. The A3 will stop up to M80 ball, yet comes in at only 0.7 inches thick. The A3 is the thinnest NIJ.06 compliant or certified composite standalone plate that includes the drop test. The A3 is the first of its kind, patent pending, that combines an alloy strike face with polyethylene backing, revolutionizing body armor technology by providing strength and durability while remaining sleek and maneuverable. The A3 is the new standard in lightweight body armor. The fight against tyranny just got stronger.
Hey y'all, it's Monday. Pastor Toby is not here.
You know what that means.
Chuck Knox.
We're going to be in some trouble today.
On the Fight Laugh Feast Network. It's
we
good to be with you guys.
We always get in trouble whenever Pastor Toby's not here.
I know.
He always kind of like
this
guards
is probably going to go viral, and there's going to be some controversy
and
from the show.
He's going to have to come back.
And it is, yep.
Join the controversy.
This year, our Fight Laugh Feast Conference is at the Ark Encounter in Kentucky on the politics of six-day creation. The politics of six-day creation is the difference between a fixed standard of justice and a creating standard of justice. The difference between the corrosive relativism that creates mobs and anarchy and the freedom of objectivity, truth, and due process. The politics of six-day creation establishes the authority and sufficiency of God's word for all of life. For what is a woman? What is a man? When does human life begin? How is human societies best organized?
What am I here for?
What are we here for? All that good stuff. And we actually had a glitch. We were actually May 1st was the deadline for early registration, and we actually had some computer problems over the weekend. So we just kicked off the early registration out to June 1st now.
Yeah,
I think we fixed all the technology. A bunch of people tried to register because you were all late, and then you made our computer system shut down. It's probably your fault at some level. So all those who tried to register, you should still be able to register, and actually early registration is going to be due at June 1st. So get registered.
So you still get them cheap prices to get in there.
That's right.
So you sign up, become a Fight Laugh Feast Club member.
Yep.
You go ahead and become get to the conference, and then you get the cheap prices on two ends, right?
That's
early
right.
bird and the $100 off.
You're wasting money if you don't become a club member. I mean, that's the pitch every time. You're
and there's some good things that are coming down the pike.
It's like you get a Costco, coupon, and if you don't use it, you're losing money. You're losing money.
One more thing, we got to talk about
Knox Unplugged.
Yeah, so out in Nashville will be an event called the world ends when the metaphor dies. It's going to be with Jason Farley, David Fowler, and of course George Grant. It'll be at his church on
it's
May
a Knox
13th.
Unplugged event. It's actually a Knox
live,
Unplugged event.
It's a live Knox Unplugged event. It will be there with George Grant again at his church, May 13th. Go to
fightlaughfeast.com to sign up. Click on the events tab on the hamburger. And you'll be able to sign up right from there. You'll see Knox Unplugged event right there.
And just a quick pitch. This whole one of the things, everything that's going on right now in America is based off of our cosmology. Not one thing that we're dealing with is not based off our cosmology. And our cosmology has been so influenced by secularism that when we fight the things of the left, we're fighting them with the power of their worldview instead of our worldview. And the way that we need to fight right now is with a biblical cosmology, the way that God has really made the world to work. And if you don't understand that, then you need to be out to the event in Nashville, May 13th, so you can have a new cosmology. There's only room for 50 people. It's going to be very small, very intimate. It's going to be very interactive. So come on out and join us out there.
What's the date?
May 13th.
May 13th?
Yep, in Nashville.
Go. Sign up, fightlaughfeast.com. Hey, it's great to have Gregg Phillips on the show with us today. If you don't know who Gregg Phillips is, he's like a secret sauce ninja or something. He grew up in the intelligence space. That's already interesting to me, and has been involved in election integrity in 32 races, 22 countries, and hundreds of races here in the United States. He partnered with True to Vote back, I believe, in 2019. He's the executive producer of 2,000 Mules and the host of Patriot Games.
You know what this means? This means that you can't finish this show.
That's right.
on YouTube.
Yeah. Neil, cut it.
All right, you're going to have to download the Fight Laugh Feast app, come and listen to the rest of the conversation there.
Or go
because
to Rumble.
I'm sure when you said Gregg Phillips, it pretty much just flagged our whole account right there. And then when you said, 2,000 Mules, they just cut off the feed. So go to the Fight Laugh Feast app, go download the app, listen to the rest of the show there. So, or inside of our podcast, subscribe to the podcast to get it there, because that's probably the only place the show's going to be able to be listened to.
And then you can also go on Rumble if you have that app.
Rumble,
to catch the rest of the show. So from here on out, we're not on YouTube anymore.
Yeah.
Click. So, Gregg, welcome to the show, man. Thank you for joining us all the way from Alabama.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. I wanted to get into some of your info on the whole election stuff, 2,000 Mules and all that stuff. But first, I wanted you to kind of lay out the assault that has been going on you. You've been arrested this last year, or was it 2 years ago, something like that. You've lost leases to your buildings. Like, it seems like there's been this assault on you ever since 2,000 Mules and other stuff. You've been involved with election integrity, so forth. Like, if election integrity was not real, it doesn't seem like people would be assaulting you and the government going after you and stuff like that. But they're threatened somehow. Talk about everything that's been going on with basically the government persecuting you and what you've been doing.
It's been since, December of 2020, we got involved in the runoff in Georgia 2 days after we helped challenge 364,000 voters that were not eligible to vote. By the way, 47,000 of those actually voted in that runoff. Stacey Abrams, Mark Elias sued us the first time, and I think we announced it on December the 15th. They sued us on December the 17th. We're still in court on that one. We're in court on another one in Georgia. I think we've got 5 or 6 lawsuits against us now. It's all about lawfare and trying to kill us. A month or so later, we began the analysis that became 2,000 Mules. That was in January of 2021. We also came in contact with some information that basically a group of Chinese actors, one of them a naturalized U.S. citizen, was not just transporting data from our elections to China, but the data was actually living and operating in China, so on their servers in China. In fact, there's some news on this today. It was on the Unicom backbone, which the China Unicom backbone is one of the main internet backbones in China. It's been banned for use in the United States. No one can use it. But it was in the news today because, lo and behold, Hunter Biden, he held shares, and guess what? The China Unicom.
Wow.
It's just insane. You can't make this stuff up. All of that blew up in at an event that we had in August of 2022 called The Pit, where we introduced 180 or so citizen researchers to the concepts that we had uncovered. And even more important than that, we let everybody know that the FBI the Counterintelligence Bureau or division at the FBI had been working with us since January or so, maybe first part of February of 2021. For 15 months, they worked with us on a counterintelligence operation in Michigan against this company, working us against this company. We were operational assets. We gave them the data to support them. In spite of what the haters say out there, we don't take money for any of this kind of stuff. We came across a national intelligence violation. We turned it over to the appropriate authorities. They then worked the case for 15 months. Just when the case was about to make, all we learned was that there were 2 female agents of some senior status in D.C. who told the people we had been working with, hey, we have evidence that they stole this information from the Chinese internet, that Gregg, in particular me, had stolen 3 servers from the Chinese internet. And if that's true, you're going to jail for the rest of your life, and we're turning this whole thing on you. So I laughed. I thought it was a joke and said, but that's really not what the internet is, guys. You can't steal the internet from China. And they wasn't too funny to them. They proceeded down a path. We don't know if they were ever actually really opened anything up against us, but we turned all of this over to citizen researchers. Within a month, there were investigations going on pretty much all over the country. In Los Angeles County, of all places, the DA or the assistant DA out there kind of dug into this thing, and I went out and testified at the grand jury in L.A., and they arrested the CEO of this company, a guy named his Chinese name is Jinhua Yu, but he goes by Eugene Yu here in the States. Mm-hmm. And they arrested him, confiscated 300 terabytes of servers and information from his building in Michigan, and shipped it all off to L.A. That same day, we were notified that that same CEO had filed a defamation case against us in federal court in Houston, alleging that we had broke into their servers. Mm-hmm. None of it was true. We then that defamation case had us in court a few weeks later. Remember, this is a civil case. This is not a criminal case. Right. And we're in there. The judge absolutely interrogated me, interrogated Catherine, these Wormwood brother lawyers that as I dubbed them partway through the thing, were sitting behind us laughing. And it was really a joke. Well, the next Monday, the judge said, if you don't give us the name of the people that uncovered this information, Mr. Phillips and Mrs. Engelbrecht, we're going to put you in prison. Mm-hmm. And he said, so you're going to give me that name? And we said, no, sir, we're not. And sure enough, they put us in a medium security prison. It's a rent a prison that ICE uses to put really bad guys, MS-13 guys, and others that are coming across the border and they get in trouble. In fact, that guy, I understand this. Just a friend of mine just said this to me. That shooting, that mass murder by that immigrant in Texas, in Cleveland, Texas, the other day, was committed by a guy who had been in that same prison that we were in. He had been in there 4 times. Wow. So that's kind of tell you the kind of place that we were in. A week or so later, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals ordered us immediately released. A few weeks after that, the judge, or a few months after that, the judge finally recused himself. We dumped all of this information into the public in a website that Catherine and I run called OpenInk, open.ink. Think of it as sort of a souped up WikiLeaks, except with legal information. And the next day, within 24 hours, they dropped the case. And so we were free and clear on that. But I'll tell you what, I mean, I tell people this all the time, that you realize you're in trouble when U.S. Marshal has to strip search you and then chain you by the wrists and ankles and your waist, and you shuffle all around the prison, trying to figure out what just happened to you. And it's an eye-opening situation. And it's all, as I told my granddaughter, I talked to my 5-year-old granddaughter while I was in jail, and she said, she calls me Papa, and she said, Papa, where are you? And I said, oh, I'm in this little town in Texas. It's a cool little town called Conroe. And she said, no, Papa, where are you? I'm like, oh, she knows. She's on to me. Yeah. And she said, well, why are you in jail? And I said, I'm in jail because I would tattle on somebody who had some information that people wanted. Oh. She said, so you went to jail because you wouldn't tattle? And I said, yeah, that's right, sweetheart. And so I hope I made an impact at least on her.
No, sir, you made an impact on your great grandkids is what you did. Yeah. Wow.
It was quite an experience, though, guys. The cool thing about it all is that this guy's just got nowhere to go with all of this. Since then, we've had affidavits submitted from people that experienced the same thing in Australia, where this company works. Affidavit from a former employee who testified in our case that everything we said was true, and that he had been asked to lie by this guy in this company. Wow. The killer of this whole thing is there's 300 terabytes of information that prove everything we're saying out in Los Angeles. 1.8 million workers worth of private information is living in China. Those are election workers from some of the biggest counties in America.
So you're saying that China that China has basically election record information being stored in China through this company?
Everything. What do you mean everything?
Everything. They have the voting records. They have your name. They have my name. They have everyone's name. They have all of the information about you. They have 90 fields worth of information about the workers. They have lists of the voting machines. They have the serial numbers on the voting machines, the passwords on the voting machines. They have the schematics for the buildings that these things work in. They run the actual assignments for the election. So let's say that I was a bad guy and I wanted to go miscount something. What would you do? You'd try to get in when they were counting, right? Well, these people run the counting systems for some of the biggest jurisdictions in the country: Los Angeles, Detroit, Boston, and it goes on and on and on and on and on.
So
and
wait a second.
It's a train wreck.
How did you find out about this information? How did you find out that Konak was storing this information in China?
The idiots left their servers open with no password on them.
No way.
We have people that are regular.
No way.
We have people that regularly test and find out where things are going. Some people call it pin testing. There's a service called Binary Edge, and you could go to Binary Edge, type in a URL, for example. Like if you typed in Facebook.com, it would be really buttoned up and cleaned up. It would come back and say that this is in Seattle, Washington, or San Francisco, or wherever their servers are. I mean, it's really buttoned up. But with these guys, we came across this URL, so we found some of their URLs. They used to use a common nomenclature when they would go into a county. Vote for the number 4 LA.com, vote for Boston.com, vote for Detroit.com, and so on and so forth. So we just went into Binary Edge. One of our contractors went into Binary Edge, typed it in, and sure enough, it pops up with that this IP address is in Wuhan, China. We're like, what? And so they called me, and actually they were former contractors, but nevertheless, they called me. I was back in Alabama visiting my kids and grandkids, and they said, you have to come here now. So I met them in Dallas that night. We had a bite to eat, and then went upstairs to a suite of a hotel room. They put this up on the big screen in the hotel, everything that they had found, because once you got into that IP address, it listed all the ports and what was on the ports. And this is all in Binary Edge. And what was on one of the ports was something called MongoDB, which is a database it's a great database. I mean, it's an open source deal, and a lot of people use it. We use it in some of our business. But the knuckleheads killed the master password and then left it open. And so the master password, when it shipped, it's just password. And so everybody knows that except maybe the Chinese. And so you go in, they typed in password, and all of a sudden they were in. And they weren't just in, but they were into one of the most astounding things that I've ever seen. By now it's about 4:00 in the morning, and I'm like a data geek, guys. And I mean, and they were showing me things, and I was like, whoa, wait, what? Wait, what was that? What did you just show me? And they were showing all this different thing. They were showing connections to the counting software that most places use is a company called Seidel. I think it's SYTLE or something like that, and SCYTLE. And it turns out that the project manager / CTO, depending on which project they were working on in China. I'm sorry, in LA, for example, and this came out in the court case, was actually a now former employee of Seidel in Barcelona, Spain. Seidel's based in Barcelona. Okay. So not only did they have all of the names, all of the equipment, all of the voter registration information in China, but they had a direct connect, a handshake, sort of a passwordless API that would allow the two systems to connect between Konak and Seidel, between China and Barcelona, with just a handshake. Nobody even touched it. Uh-huh. And so our point of view was, wait. And we didn't even have a chance to get to work on the Seidel thing before the whole thing blew up. So we don't know where all that went or whether the FBI ever looked into that or not. But that's the way it happened. And I left about 4 or 5 in the morning, never even went into my room in Dallas, and drove down to Houston and met with Catherine and said, we got a problem. And she said, "What are we going to do?" And I said, "Look, this is a violation of at least three provisions of the National Security Act, including the critical infrastructure executive order that Obama created, ironically, back in 2014, making elections critical infrastructure, and recognizing that all these things were violating our, the sovereignty of the country and the National Security Act in particular. We did what any good American should do. We took it to law enforcement. The highest law enforcement in the land is the FBI, or the federal side. And we took it to the FBI, and they, like I said, they acted like they worked on it with us for 15 months. And then next thing we know, they weren't. They were coming after us. So we did what we still had a few friends there, and one of them said, "You're going to have to take this nuclear." Catherine said, "Well, what does that mean?" Going nuclear. And he said, "You got to go to the public. You got to go public with this."
Right. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on,
so
Greg, real quick.
So we did.
Wow. I gotta interrupt you because I got an ad to read, and then we're gonna get right back into this. This is.
I need more alcohol.
You need more bourbon. It's Bourbon Monday. Today's culture shifts like sand, but New St. Andrews College is established on Christ, the immovable rock. The college is a premier institution that forges evangelical leaders who don't fear or hate the world, guided by God's word, equipped with the genius of classical liberal arts and God-honoring wisdom, with a faculty dedicated to academic rigor and to God's kingdom. New St. Andrews College offers an education that frees people, logic and languages, hard work, and joyful courage, old books and godly professors. New St. Andrews College provides time-tested resources that can equip your student for any vocation. To find out more, visit NSA, New St. Andrews, nsa.edu.
Greg, I don't even know. I had 12 questions listed out here, and none of them seem to matter at all anymore.
Sorry about that.
No, I just want you to continue. So you go to the FBI, they act like they're working with this on you, and then they take you to. So there's so many questions I have, but one of them is you just saw this settlement with Fox over election Dominion, misrepresentation, all that stuff like that. So they have all this information with this company that happens to be stored in China. That's problematic. But seems like a stupid question, but I have to ask. Do you think there was any manipulation really going on or is this just information that's stored there? Because those are two different things, right? You got one thing where it's like, okay, yeah, we have information stored here.
In a wrong place, and illegally stored.
Illegally stored in a place, but that doesn't mean, though, necessarily that there has been interference with the reality of our elections. Those are two separate issues, right?
Well, unfortunately for the people that did this, when they made the elections critical infrastructure, they not just prohibited this, but they made it a very serious crime. And because he happened to be a naturalized U.S. citizen, our view of it is that the guy committed treason.
Treason, yeah.
And so it's critically important that we understand that. Now, as it relates to to some of the did they manipulate and this kind of stuff, that would be one thing that one would think that the law enforcement that the FBI would have wanted to tend to, right? I mean, they would have wanted to understand what happened between that connection between the company that had all the information and the company counting the ballots in Barcelona. Is there a connection? What is it? And how did that even happen? And was there anything happen? In the meantime, remember, we had 2,000 Mules going on where we were able to demonstrate effectively through this movie that there were tens of thousands of votes being manipulated by two key factors. One of them was there was basically mail-in voting for everyone, whether you were an active voter or an inactive voter all over the United States. Yeah. And you could just mail in your ballot and get your ballot, mail in your ballot, whether you live there or not. And in places like Georgia, just the 364,000 people that we challenged, 70,000 of those voted in the general election. These people were not eligible to vote. Wow. 70,000 people voted in the general election that were not eligible to vote. It's not okay. So it's really, I think the way I would look at this, and I've talked to I guess, thousands of people on this topic, whether they be law enforcement or lawyers or laymen, that there was enough here for an indictment to be brought and for somebody to really take a hard look at this thing. There's no possible way that 70,000 people in the state of Georgia that were ineligible to vote should have been allowed to cast ballots. Mm-hmm. And that cast dispersion on the entire thing. And you can take that really across the country and start thinking about, these ballot drop boxes that were being, stuffed by what we call mules, by all these mules. And it was everywhere. I mean, we looked in six major cities and, estimated, tens of thousands of ballots were illegally cast. So it really wasn't just one thing. It was many, many more. We don't know about the Dominion stuff. And just because we never looked at it, I mean, it wasn't our lane, but, I understand that there's solid and credible information. But you know what? Here's the truth. Fox refused to cover the mules. Never talked about the mules. That's right. Carrie Lake brought it up one time and they got all mad at her and fussed at her and cut her off and all this kind of stuff. But they never talked about the mules. So if from day one they knew to not talk about the mules, from the day we released that movie going forward, what could possibly have happened that would make them do that? They had no idea what evidence we had. We had 10 terabytes of geospatial analysis. My team is the best on the planet at geospatial analysis. We weren't wrong. They were wrong. Wow. They were wrong for not covering it. They were wrong for not spending any time with us. They were wrong for, siding with whoever it was that, that controls them. And, this is what it is, right? But,
Greg, when the whole election happened, I watched all the arguments come up about a stolen election. And I'm not really, because I have a conspiracy bone, I have all of my bones are conspiracy bones in my body. I reject really easily conspiracy theories, right? Because I know that I can jump into them very easily without hardly being convinced. So I came up with reasonable arguments almost against each argument that I saw against for the fact that, hey, we've got some election problems. I came up with everybody's response to, oh, what about this? Or what about them covering up? And I was like, okay, I can argue the opposite side. When I saw 2,000 Mules, there wasn't any argument that I saw to come against that, or people just didn't pay any attention to it. But when I saw it, I was like, whoa, wait a second. Not only was I concerned because, hey, this looks like a really valid argument here. I want somebody to come and speak to it. But then I started saying, I don't like the geocaching thing. That scares me. Like, as soon as you guys started bringing that up, I was like, whoa, we have a bigger problem than election stuff. We're being tracked in a massive way.
Yeah, it's really true. And because this is what we do for a living, we probably understand this in a way that many people don't. But I can tell you, it is frightening. It frightens me for my grandkids who are doing, homeschooling. It frightens me for judges and our law enforcement that are trying to take care of us because the bad guys are tracking them. The bad guys are tracking everyone. By the way, to that point, this is going to sound like a horrible sales thing, so I'm not even going to mention the name, but we have built a device, and we haven't launched it yet, not until June, but we built a device that defeats this.
Oh,
so that we can give it to judges, or we can give it to law enforcement, or we can give it to other folks.
Just regular Americans.
Absolutely.
Hello.
Defeats it. Just regular folks.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Go ahead, Gabe. I don't want to give it because we only have a little time left.
Keep down this track.
What is I wish that this was getting out there a lot more. And I think everybody who hears this, I think that this is not a time to be fearful. I think this is a time to understand the battle that we're facing.
Sons of Issachar.
Understand the other side and what's going on, and to use wisdom in this process and to be bold. I don't know. I'm praying as you were talking. I'm like, Lord, keep this man safe. Protect Gregg Phillips at all costs. But what should we be thinking, and how should we be thinking about this, and what do you think we should be doing in light of everything you just said?
Yeah, the first thing you got to do is you got to protect yourselves and your family, especially your kids. Kids are using phones these days at a rate that we can't even imagine, and we're giving them the data. I mean, there's not a worse tracking mechanism on the planet than TikTok, and we just allow it, right? I mean, I know there's a lot of debate: are we going to ban it? Are we not going to ban it? those kind of things are following us. But the bigger problem is that inside of your phone, it's the free apps that kill you, right? I mean, it's the like your flashlight app is a good example. Your flashlight app gives off signals that are captured by Apple and then sold to the brokers.
What?
Your weather app. Yeah, your weather app, you name it, and they're tracking you. So stopping that tracking is number one as it relates to our personal privacy. But beyond that, if we don't get these roles clean on the voter side, and just remember what I said, 364,000 voters in Georgia we have identified as not living there. I'm not talking about dead people. I'm not talking about, military or students or whatever. I'm saying that 364,000 people on their rolls were registered to vote, and many of them voted during the 2020 election. If we allow that to continue across the United States, and it's everywhere, it's pervasive throughout, even states that we would consider to be good states are dirty. This is dirty. This is a dirt problem, guys. We got to clean this thing up. If we fix that, then we can start working on things like, not doing any more all mail-in voting and all the other nonsense that goes on out there. Mm-hmm. But until we get these voter rolls clean, we've got a problem. Now, we're going to be tracking these folks. I promise you. We were good in 2020, and we were great when we did the election stuff for the Mules movie. But when it comes down to 2024, I hope the cheaters are watching. If you're watching, listen to me closely. We will get you. We will catch you. There's no way out of this. And we figured it all out. We figured your games out. We figured it all out. And we got you. We're going to get you. And, and it's but they're going to find other ways to do it too, right? I mean, it's not always one way to cheat. They're going to find many ways to cheat. It's like Mike Flynn and I were talking about this. It's like there's a set of it. They've got the fifth generation warfare. But he and Boone Cutler have the fifth generation warfare book out. We're going to be doing some war games with them and doing some fun stuff with them. But if you contemplate really what's happening here, you've got hundreds of these mini insurgencies around the country, right? It might be 5 people in a jurisdiction. It might be 50 people, but they're basically insurgencies. And the only way to fight back against them is a counterinsurgency. But what Boone and I have been really talking about, and what we really need to do, these are all defensive strategies, right? We're going to catch you if you cheat. Right. We're going to try to stop you and keep you from cheating. Those are defensive. But we're developing with some of the best military minds in the country a method for creating offense. We're done playing just defense. We're going to play offense. We're not only going to catch you, but we're going to flip the script on you. We're going to turn some tables over, and we're going to make this happen.
Would you vote for DeSantis or Trump? Who would you prefer?
Wow, that was just a drop out of nowhere. Just like, hey.
I'm curious now. I got curious.
Well, I have limited experience with DeSantis. I have a lot more experience with President Trump. President Trump was in large part responsible for getting us out of jail like he did.
Wow.
But he was 100% responsible for keeping us safe while we were in jail. When he found out that we went to jail, he called the attorney general in Texas, the governor in Texas, the lieutenant governor in Texas. We were in a federal prison, so they couldn't do anything. So then he called the warden of the prison and really demanded action. We got a U.S. Marshal came by to do a wellness check on us. And President Trump is largely responsible for that. President Trump also embraced the Mules movie in a way that I can't even begin to explain to you. He not only saw the early director's cut, but he asked for and demanded some significant changes from Dinesh and the production team to before it actually went forward. So I had have had an extraordinary relationship with President Trump. I've got cancer, and a lot of folks know that. And somehow he found out about it, and he left me a message here on my cell phone a few weekends ago. That was just, you can't even make this up. I mean, the guy, as busy as he is, going through everything he's going through, and he took the time to call me just express his gratefulness and thankfulness and his hope and prayers that we would, that I'd get better. And that's the kind of guy that President Trump is, and that's the kind of person that I'm going to support. Now, DeSantis, I don't have anything against the guy. I'm a little worried about there's some squishy public policy things I'm a little worried about. Some things he supported while he was in Congress that I worry a lot about. But you know what? Anything's better than Joe Biden. Anything's better than the left right now. Would I take DeSantis? If I have to, sure.
It's come to that.
Would I rather have President Trump? 100%. By the way, we presented the Mules movie information, the underlying data, to DeSantis at a meeting in Boca Raton in the summer of 2021, and didn't get a lot of action out of him. So just to kind of give you
what would
few
you
little tidbits
thank
to
you.
think about.
Thank you, Greg. What would you say to, last question, I know you got to go here, but what would you say to, speaking to me here, so I didn't vote for Trump in 2016. I voted for Trump in 2020 because I could see what he did, kind of thing. And then 2020 hit, and I'm seriously considering not voting for him in 2024 or in the primaries because of how he handled 2020 so badly. I mean, Fauci was his problem, and he never dealt with it. There was some major political decisions that he didn't make, and then he started blaming others and started blaming Vice President Pence, and it just became a disaster. His presidency very quickly became a disaster to me in 2020. I guess the only reason why I did vote for him in 2020 was because I could trust him for what he did the last 4 years, and I didn't want Biden. But 2020, I almost went back to my 2016 route of not voting for him because of how he handled 2020 and everything. What would you say to a guy like me?
My experience with all of this is that these you think of the weight of that job, right? But you're just one person. I've been around governors, I've been around presidents, I've done this for a long time, and I've seen it all in the United States and otherwise. My broad experience is that what you saw with Trump during the first administration was the policies of a guy that truly believed in what he was doing. He believed that Putin was a thug, but Putin was afraid of him. He recognized that Xi Jinping was maybe the most dangerous person in the world, and handled it, as such. And I think that's the kind of thing. But what happens in these situations is you get you're surrounded by people that may not have your back. They may not have the right policy leanings that you think that you would like for them to, but you really have no choice. You've got to staff those jobs up, and you got to do it quick. And there's all kinds of mistakes that are made along the way. I would say that it was the staff far more than it was President Trump that caused those problems. I would say that some of the legal folks around him caused many of those problems. I think that it was mishandled, but not necessarily mishandled by the president, but mishandled by his legal team, mishandled by a bunch of inexperienced Dumbleweenies in all around him in government. If I could just say one quick thing about that, if we have time, in 1982, it was called the New Jersey Consent Decree, widely. And the New Jersey Consent Decree basically was a federal lawsuit where the Republicans in New Jersey had done some things they probably shouldn't have done from an election integrity perspective. They agreed. So the RNC stepped in and agreed, okay, we won't, just to settle the suit, we won't do that anymore. We won't do anything anymore. So from 1982, my first year in politics, to 2018 is when that consent decree finally went away. So working in election integrity from 82 to 2018, like 36 years. Think about this, 36 years. No one at the RNC worked on election integrity. They didn't even have an election integrity plan.
Wow.
They did nothing for election integrity. There were no lawyers. There were no staff. There was nobody working with us from the RNC saying, hey, we need to fix this. We got a problem here. They took a walk on it, an absolute walk on it. So between 2018, when they were able to start working on it again on the Republican side, and 2020, when all of this happened, you had 2 years worth of experience for lawyers, but they were being attacked by the left, with the Mark Eliases of the world who had been doing this for their entire lives. And the left had the game, right? They had hundreds and hundreds of lawyers. They filed close to 300 lawsuits in 2020 before the election to open the door to all of this mail-in voting and to prevent the rolls from being cleaned and allowing these dirty rolls to be there. But that was all done because the RNC and because Republicans broadly refused to invest in it. They refused. They were basically cowards who walked away from one of the most important issues in the history, modern history, for 36 years.
Wow.
They walked away from it, and by the time it was over, you had a crappy staff, you had ill-equipped lawyers to do all of this, and you had a guy who was watching four of the best years from a many perspectives, not just economic, but I mean, I could name a lot of things. Yeah, there were some screw ups, a lot of screw ups in the end, but all that was planned too, right? The pandemic was the pandemic. It was planned. And so not having a team around you that you could rely on. And so he looks around and, hey, there's that Fauci guy. I don't know who he is. Trump's not a politician. A politician might have been able to say, that guy, what's wrong with that guy? I don't like him. But Trump wasn't a politician.
Yeah.
All he could do was really trust the people around him. And unfortunately, not only was he not trustworthy, but maybe committed mass murder. So, man, I don't know. Those are all tough questions, but there's no possible way that this, unless something else happens here, that DeSantis is going to win this thing. And I think if they're going to indict him for J6, that's the only one of these stupid suits that are out there. The stuff in New York isn't going to make a difference.
Right.
The stuff in Georgia isn't going to make a difference.
Right.
But if they indict him for some sort of an insurrection or something to overthrow the government in D.C. in sometime this summer, and they convict him, we got a problem. So our great hope and our prayers every day for me and Catherine, we pray that those lawyers wise up and that they get ready to do what they're about to have to do in Washington, D.C. to protect this country, protect President Trump, and protect freedoms that we all know and love. Otherwise, I tell you, I hate to use this word because it's like those same FBI guys that told me I need to push the nuclear button will come knocking on the door. But if they take Trump out of this, guys, there's going to be some sort of war or something. I mean, that's incitement to war. And I don't know what's going to happen for sure, but there's definitely going to be one of those fifth generation warfare wars.
Well,
I have great fear if they indict that man.
Well, I probably would have agreed with you maybe 5 years ago or 4 years ago, but I watch everybody fold underneath COVID too, so I'm not concerned too much that people are going to have that kind of boldness. So I'm telling you, I watch those guys.
You guys can come help me clear some land. Y'all can all move down here. We'll all live in LA.
Or you can move to Idaho. I'm fine with that too.
We're building out here. Churches. We're building schools.
Greg, give us a website for people can check out. Oh, was it Open Ink that you mentioned?
Yeah, open.ink, great site, amazing things going on. PatriotGames.com. You can look and see what we're doing on there. We've got a great show, and they're going to be doing our war games on Patriot Games. And Catherine's site, truethevote.org. Go there and look at all the great things that Catherine and her team are doing. And guys, this has been a great fun. I am so grateful that you invited me, and I hope sometime y'all bring me back.
Oh, yeah, we got to bring you back so we can talk about AI because we didn't even get to that part yet. So, Greg, you stay safe. Hold on
and
right
barbecue.
There. We didn't get the barbecue. All right. If you're single, get married. If you're married, have you some kids. And if you have kids, go baptize them. Until tomorrow, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is CrossPolitic.
parents are waking up to the problems of the current American educational system. And when the Department of Education can't determine what a boy is or what a girl is, why in the world would any sane parent trust them with a math curriculum? We are regular Christian parents who found ourselves with children to educate, and we found that the options available usually fell into two categories. Either the education was good, but was lacking in the Christian department, or the Christian part was solid and the education was lacking. So we got a group of parents together and said, why not? Let's start classical Christian school.
When I was first approached with doing this school, being a teacher as well as having my son be a student, I wasn't looking for anything different, and this came along, and it has been just such an answer to prayer of little things that we didn't realize that the school would then give to our son that we didn't know we were needing. And there were just a lot of benefits to coming to school. The programs that people could offer, some of the areas where I'm not the strongest in, some teachers were able to do it. And then they asked if I would be interested in helping to teach, and I jumped on board.
I began very skeptical, if I'm being honest. There have been a few days where, especially in the beginning, I wondered if I made the right choice. But it is the relationship and the fellowship that is fostered here that has taken away any of my hesitation or my fears.
If you're trying to decide, is school right for my child? Is staying home? And, I like that this kind of gives you a feel of both of those things. Like, I still feel in charge and in control of my son's education. But I also know that maybe science is not the best thing that I can teach him. His science teacher comes in and can just help take that load from me and be able to help him. And it's been great.
We want to be the tool to help you achieve what we believe is the most important job in the world, training up your children in the nurture and admonition of the Lord.
They may be future pastors. They may be future politicians. They may just be a dad. They may be a mom. We don't know what the Lord's called them to. And the fact that I get the honor of being able to be a part of that journey and their education.
It feels perfect for right now because I'm watching my son love to learn. And I get that it feels like a risk to step out of what society says is normal, because the normal thing is you put your kindergartner in school 5 days a week, 8 to 3, every day for the rest of their lives, and that's what you're supposed to do. But then you end up with an 18-year-old that you barely know, who hates every bit of school, who barely knows what they want to do with their future. And to be able to be a part of this, it's like I'm watching a dream that I didn't even really know was a dream kind of unfold.
Our students love being here. Our teachers are excited. They are committed, and they are here for the long haul. They're here because they believe in the mission.
You have to decide what's most important to you. And what was most important to me is surrounding myself and my son with like-minded people who were ready to go to battle, because that's what we're doing.
The Word of God is living and active, sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing to the division of soul and of spirit, of joints and marrow. Through the Spirit, God's Word changes lives. It cuts us to the heart and reshapes us. As you strive to read and study Scripture, having a good set of tools can help. From setting reminders for a great reading plan, to word studies and commentaries that shed light on difficult passages, to listening on the go, the Olive Tree Bible app can help you dig into the Word wherever you are. Olive Tree Bible app. Read, study, listen, anywhere.